Hi there, it's Ruth Backlund from Energy Works Myofascial Release. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about, that it sucks when the modern medical system doesn't believe you're hurting. And I know what that feels like. When I was in college, I actually got really, really sick. I think it was my freshman year. And a lot of stomach issues, was having a hard time tolerating certain foods, throwing up, and of course the natural things as a college student, people are thinking, oh, it's, you're homesick, you're just having a hard time adjusting, or, of course around that teenage years, early 20s, people think about anorexia, nervosa, or bulimia, things like that, and that wasn't the case at all. I was actually having trouble with my gallbladder, which tends to run in our family, but I was really young, and so I didn't fit the profile of, over 40, fat, fertile, and having a lot of gas, farting, so those 4 Fs. I didn't fit that profile at all. I was actually very thin. I was a soccer player, I was a runner, very active, and I just was having a lot of trouble, and sometimes even just the smell of certain things would trigger some really severe cramping in my upper abdomen. So went through a lot of tests. I was poked, I was prodded, I was given, mental health tests. I was giving medication for depression, and I was hurting. I was physically hurting, and it really sucked that the medical system didn't really believe me. I was. It took me having to lose quite a bit of weight because anytime I would eat, I would actually get sick. So I started to lose a lot of weight. I actually ended up in the hospital at some point because I couldn't keep food down. And it ended up being my gallbladder, which, they initially ruled out because all those tests didn't actually show everything that we would have expected. But all those medical tests that they were doing to find a disease or find out what their problem wasn't really showing anything. And so we know that fascial restrictions don't show up on your standard test. They aren't going to show up on your MRIs. They're not going to show up on your chest x-rays. They just don't show up. And what eventually happened was I was getting so sick, my gallbladder was actually decaying inside my body. So that's why I was getting sick. I was actually very fortunate not to get gangrene, get septic, because we know those could be life-ending situations. But what ended up happening is because I was hospitalized, because I couldn't tolerate food, then things got really serious. I eventually did end up having my gallbladder taken out, and it was back in the olden days when they didn't have all the laparoscopic surgeries where they put a couple probes in and inflate your belly and look around. They had to actually open me up, and I had a big, big surgeon. So when they do a surgical incision for your gallbladder or anything else in the abdomen back then, they had to have an opening big enough for the surgeon to get his hand in there. Okay? So I have a big monster scar in my abdomen because the big surgeon that I had to get his big hand in there to actually take out the gallbladder. And not only did they take out the gallbladder, at that point in time they used to take out the appendix as well, because people are known to have problems with their appendix. So not only do I have that really big scar in my abdomen, but then they tunneled his arm all the way down so he could actually take out my appendix as well. So lots of scar tissue in there. But anyway, what ended up happening is they found out that I didn't have the big gallstones like they were looking for on the tests, but like I said, it was actually decaying. My gallbladder tissue was all inflamed, it was full of sludge, and that's why I didn't tolerate anything. It was so compressed and locked down, it just wasn't functioning properly. So it really sucks when the medical system does not believe that you're suffering. And I was fortunate. My family was very supportive. My primary physician was very supportive. Some of the physicians that I saw were not. Even as I ran a low-grade temperature, I had one physician tell me that I didn't know how to read a thermometer. I know how to read a thermometer. So that low-grade temp was really the decaying and the infection that was starting to grow inside my gallbladder as it was starting to rot. So anyway, long story short, the message that I want to say to you is if you've got an issue and you're seeing a physician, you've got some chronic pain, if you're not having any luck, they've done all the standard tests, they can't find anything wrong with you, you know what, give me a call, because I'm willing to just talk to you, see what might be going on. I'm not a physician, I can't diagnose anything, but But depending on the kinds of issues you're having, it might be worth coming in for a consultation and just seeing where you're at in your body. If you've got some chronic pain, chronic back and neck or hip pain, those are pretty common things, and I see those all the time in my office. So if they can't find anything wrong on the standard test, well, they might not be looking in the right place.